Hey guys, welcome to the session by K21 Academy. As we all know that Microsoft has released DP203 exam and this is going to replace DP200 and DP201. In this session, we are going to deep dive into Azure Data Factory. So we have taken a clip from one of our certification training program on data engineering on Microsoft Azure DP203. And in this clip, our expert will be talking about Azure Data Factory.
So let's say this is my data factory over here, right? Let's say data factory. Now data factory, let's put it ADF. So data factory, one thing which comes to my mind is called as pipeline concept over there. Pipeline means when you create multiple steps over there, the full thing is called as pipeline. So last time we did one copy pipeline, which literally had two steps over there. One was ADF part where the copy happened, and the second part was where the notebook scoring did. There were two steps basically. So now ADF contains many, you can say many type of activities. So let me just put that copy back again, the one which we have used previously, copy activity. Now, when you copy something, right, you copy from somewhere to some location. So you copy from source into sync location like that. Source setting and sync setting. Similarly, all the activities will have similar type of settings over there, source and sync. Or other, if you do something else, then obviously other settings will be there of different type. But in copy, we have source and sync. So imagine my source is some cloud. I have the data in AWS. Maybe I have data in GCP. This is GCP. Or I have data in any in Azure. Let's say Azure one location, the way from on, we assumed it on premises, or we are on premises. So this is on premises. On premises. So first of all, Data Factory doesn't do anything real time. Data Factory works in batch mode. We schedule the pipeline. It runs every 7 days. It runs every 5 days. It runs every once a day, and so on and so forth. Some schedule might be there. This is not real time. This is batch mode ingestion of data. It loads in batch mode. So if I have data in AWS, it might be in S3 bucket. Let's say there we have storage account in AWS is basically S3 bucket. So you might be having some data in S3 bucket. So if I connect that, so where is data right now? Really data is in S3 over there in AWS. Now, if I want to represent that data in Data Factory pipeline, to represent it, I have to save the configuration. So there is one thing which we create called as data set. Data set basically means the representation of the data. Data is not really here. We are just representing data. So you might create something called as a source data set, which is representing the source data. Then you have to connect it. Obviously, we have to connect to AWS or we have to connect to GCP. So we make this connection configuration over there, right? This connection configuration is called as linked service, linked services. So what are the concepts which you are learning right now? That there is one thing called as linked service. Linked service will be the URL, username, password, any access key concept, any token which needs to be collected or given, everything will be part of linked services, like that linking connection management type of thing. What are data sets? Data sets are representation of real data in Data Factory. Data is not in data set, it just represent it. Where was data? Data will be in source locations, whichever source location it is there, right? Similarly, if I have sync now with me, so let's say in Azure, I have this sync location, this one. Let's say that's my sync location, and this is the symbol of data lake is like that. That's how we create it. So data lake generation 2 is the sync location. There can be others as well, but let's say this is the one. So similarly, the way I did it before, you have to link this also. So another linked service will be created here for the linking part, where the URL will be given, which data lake, what is the token of it, what is the name of it, which folder to write in, and all the details needs to be defined by us. We will do it. Now, let's say you have done this much part and everything is done perfectly, looks pretty good, and now you trigger it. So when you trigger the Data Factory pipeline, now comes the IR part, right? Notice this. So when you run this, let's say I run that, I clicked on run and it is running right now. the way we did it last time, and sometimes it's, or some of you it failed. I was just checking out the WhatsApp group. We'll see this, why it failed. But when you run it, it generally runs if everything is in place. So now think it through. Whenever you run something, obviously some computation will be utilized. If data will be pulled from some location and will be written in some location, something is doing it. Some computation will be required, some resources will be required. You have to pay for it. There is no magic as such behind the scenes. So that concept, or those servers which are moving the data, are called as IR, integration runtime. So there are three type of IR as such. First type of IR is called as Azure IR. So what is IR? IR stands for integration runtime. Let's write it down. Integration. Okay, let me write it down. Let's say integration runtime, right? And now what is the meaning of this? Integration runtime is basically resources. Any resources which are used behind the scenes are all, you can say, summarized and together called as integration runtime. Now, who is hosting this? Are we hosting that particular location? No, we are not hosting the particular location. Azure is hosting. So we call that Azure IR. What are these? Servers are there. Let's imagine servers to be there. So when you really run the data factory pipeline, who is doing the extract for you? Really, who does it? So I can put it like that, that integration runtime was the one which actually, or the computation or the resources of this was used for the extraction purpose. This was the thing which really did it. And this was the one which actually loaded the data. So load over here. What did we do in data factory? We just did the orchestration over there. We just designed it, the flow as such. So this is E and L part, right? Extract and load part. So first is called as Cloud IR, which is hosted by Azure Cloud. So these servers are in cloud. We don't see them. This is, but we pay for them. We basically pay. You can select how much resources do you want, like how much core should be there, 4 core, 8 core, 16 core. You can change that. It will change the how much computation is being allocated, pay more or pay less. This is first thing called as Cloud IR. The one which we used, right, that was called as self-hosted IR. So what is, when do we use it? What is the purpose of it? When things are on premises. We assumed our VM to be on premises in the last session. That's why we used it, self-hosted IR. So when things are on premises, and when things are on premises, there is no internet access as such, like some firewall will be there or behind firewall, or whenever you are behind firewall also, let's say you are behind that. So this is the server on-prem. Now from this server, you need to read data. That might be any relational server, maybe SQL, SAP, multiple things are supported in Data Factory, right? There is a huge list of locations from where we can extract data. Now, if this location is behind firewall, it's not publicly exposed. There is no direct line, or there is no directly we are giving any IP to the SQL server over there. There is nothing like that. So logically, what we can do, we can create some agents as such. So we create one virtual machine here like that. The way we actually installed in the machine itself, right? We didn't do it, but we installed in that machine itself. But we generally will make one dedicated machine. Then we will Google up the way we did it, and we will install that IR over there, which is the name of that is called as self-hosted IR. Self-hosted IR. What is that? It's basically one. It's an agent as such. It's basically agent which is installed on-prem, and that is the one which actually is doing the extract. This is the extract, and that is the one which is doing the load. So the resources of that IR will be used in this process. So now this is what we did last time, and whose resources were used? Of self-hosted IR. So the bottleneck right now, or how much can you read, right, depends on the resources which are here. How much CPU is there, how much RAM is there, and so on and so forth in this server. So think these two things together. So till now, our understanding says that self-hosted IR is only used when we are reading from on-premise. That's what our understanding till now should be. but there is one scenario as well, another scenario. So imagine you have your environment which is behind network. So this is my one virtual network, and virtual network, I don't think I should go in much depth. If you have specific question, ask. VNet in Azure, and basically you have some subnets over there. So one subnet may be here, and let's say one more subnet here, and one more subnet here, right? So let's say your source was inside network. Let's say this is the source over here, and this is the sink location, right? Now everything is inside. This is sink location. Everything is inside virtual network. Now virtual network is one security boundary or security isolation, or uh, it's one isolation as such. So in this scenario, if you use Azure IR, let's say if I use it, so these are the servers which are not part of my network. They are outside my network, right? They are not part of my network as such. So what happens if you use IR in that scenario? Data goes out and then data goes in like this, something like that, which is not very desirable. It's going outside network. You don't have control on Azure IR. You can have some private connections, but you don't have control on it. That is Azure's problem. So when we are inside network also, in those scenario also, we use self-hosted IR. So if I put in the middle VM, let's say here, the same agent which we installed, so then what will happen? The extract will happen like this, and load will happen after transformation. This is extract and load part. So in this scenario also, self-hosted IR will be preferred as such. Why is it preferred? Because traffic is not going outside network. It will stay inside your network, will be more secure than the first one or going outside. Think it through. Okay, now check out. So now where is the T part? This is E came, right? E is there. L also came. Where is the T part, right? How will we do the transformation part? So transformation part, just the way we did it last time, that was one of it, meaning using Databricks notebook, we can do it. Now here you have two options with you. So here two options go. One, so only one will be used in one point in time because both of them are doing the same concept, same thing. So let's say two options which I have. First option is I can use any big data tool to do it, right? Okay, so miss the data. So let's say big data, and somewhere let's put tool also. Second thing is using data flow, I can do it. Data flow, right? Like this. What's the difference? What's the meaning of it? And so on and so forth. Let's talk about the data, big data tool, which because that is more relatable because we have sort of seen it, how it does it. Now, when the second step of the pipeline will run, imagine your first step was copy and second was big data part, this second step. Now you have two options again with you. First option is you can create, so what type of transformations can I have? I can use two services. One is called as Azure Databricks, the one which we use. There is another service called as Azure HD Insight, right? Like that. So Azure Databricks give us Spark cluster. Azure HD Insight also give us Spark cluster. Both are Spark cluster, and it also gives us Hadoop cluster. Databricks you are very familiar with. If you will make any cluster in HD Insight, it will take you 40 minutes just to make the cluster, and then you will log in and you will do many more configuration. This is very it gives you more flexibility because it's more management. That's why you can do more things with it. But Databricks Spark is literally 10 times faster than other vanilla Spark. So we go for Databricks most of the time, or that is which is more preferred. It has those termination functionalities, notebook creation, table creation, the way we uploaded, all those extra things are there in the GUI. That makes it more useful. So, but we have two options just to clarify. Don't tell this to the customers, but this is as difficult as working with infrastructure as service, and this is as smooth as working with platform as service. Next type of concept. But really, both are called as PaaS solution. But Databricks, you have seen it, right? How quick it is. I'll give you one extra lab of data HD Insight. It will take you 40 to 1 hour to just make that cluster, and then you will log in. You will do many more configuration. Then finally, you will reach one place. Then the notebook will open, which is Jupyter Notebook, which is similar to Databricks. Okay, so think it through. Now, when I do any of them, doesn't matter I go for Databricks Spark or whether I go for HD Insight, you will get two options. Do you want, so you can use the existing cluster. right? Existing cluster can be used. Secondly, you can create on-demand cluster, on-demand cluster like that. So existing cluster, the way suggests that it should already exist first. Then, and here also, so it doesn't matter existing, your job should be ready or the notebook should be ready as such. You have to do that, right? Here also on demand cluster, but a job should be there. You need job or the notebook in both the scenarios, the notebook which we run over there. The good thing about on demand is that it happens in the pipeline. It creates Databricks hardly takes the cluster to create maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes if there is no error, and then it runs the pipeline. It runs the activity, then destroys the cluster or terminates the cluster in the pipeline. Existing cluster is what we did. We went to Databricks, we took the access token from there, we gave over here, and we connected that to that, and then we ran the notebook. We went to the drop down menu, we selected it, and so on and so forth. So it's just the ease of use. On demand is also pretty, you can say, more preferred. Existing cluster, you can also use it. So these two options will come. Now, these options will come when I go for big data transformations. What is this data flow? Now, what Microsoft did, a lot of people, they said that, see, now when I work with notebooks, I need to know PySpark, I need to know Scala, or I need to know, let's say, Spark SQL, or I need to know R. Then I can work with it, right? That these are the programming languages. Can you make it lesser difficult for, let's say, if somebody wants to do the transition? In most of the companies, we have a lot of people who are working, who wants to do this, who are working in SQL and maybe are not much familiar with Python and Scala. So what Microsoft did, Microsoft said, okay, we take your feedback and we will give you the functionalities in GUI. So data flow is actually GUI where you have to design the transformation. The same thing which you are doing in the Python notebook, here you do in the editor over there, or in the design part. You drag and drop in, you do it, right? So, but the catch, or so how does the GUI will look like? This is what I will show you now. So imagine this is that child pipeline of data flow, which is running. When the second step comes, this small pipeline runs over there. This is data flow. It is having some transformation logic written in GUI or created in GUI like this, right? But when this part really runs, it really runs. What it does, it compiles that GUI into some Spark context behind the scenes, meaning it converts that GUI into Spark program behind the scenes. It also creates one Spark cluster. It also creates that, and it runs that compiled GUI code into Spark cluster like that. So Spark is there behind the scenes, either existing on demand or in with the GUI. So this is called as data flow, GUI plus on demand Spark cluster. You don't see it, you can just specify how many cores will be there. It will not be visible for you. It will simply, you can say, run will happen over there.
We have put down everything about the certification, including the basic concepts that one should be knowing. So you will begin with designing a data storage structure, designing a partition strategy, designing the serving layer, implement physical data storage structures, implement logical data structures, implement the serving layer, ingest and transform data, design and develop batch processing solution, design and develop a stream processing solution, manage batches and pipelines, design security for data policies and standards, implement data security, monitor data storage and processing, optimize and troubleshoot data storage and data processing. And then you will do projects. So this is the most important point, right? Once you understand the basic concepts, then you run projects on top of that. And finally, you will be giving the certification exam. We provide you some sample questions through which you would be preparing. In this 12-week roadmap, we take you from basics to advanced level along with the tips and resources for clearing the certification exam. Once you are done with the certification, then start preparing your CV and start applying for jobs. The learning you have done here and the projects you have done here will help you to get a job. We also have a separate team working for CV preparation and on-job support. So if you want to become Microsoft Azure data engineer and want to learn right from basics to expert level, then we have a comprehensive step-by-step training for you that includes hands-on labs, including the exam preparation and most important part, 1 year on-job support. So if you are interested in this program, I would highly recommend you to attend the free class which covers most of the topics like why and who should learn data platform on Azure cloud, data types, data stores, data ingestion, Azure Data Factory, Azure Databricks, and many other topics. So if you are interested in this free class, you can visit k21academy.com/azurede02. You can also find the link in the description.